And welcome back to the Constitution Line by Line. I'm Paul Fabrizio.
And I'm Don Frazier.
And we're going through Article 4, Section 3, Clause 2, 432. Are you ready?
Ready to go.
We're about acquiring territory, and this is a follow-on to the acquisition of new states.
Yeah, well, step one, you can have new states. And step two, this is how you do it.
Okay. Congress shall have the power to dispose of and make all needful rules and regulations respecting the territory or other property belonging to the United States. And nothing in this Constitution shall be so construed as to prejudice any claims of the United States or any particular state. More correctly, or of any particular state. So, Congress has complete control of territory.
Yeah, they'll make the rules, and they'll tell you how all this stuff is organized in.
Yeah. And the United States, I don't know, I guess from the very beginning we've had territory.
Well,
is that a fair statement?
Yeah, because you had 13 original colonies that become states, and they all had claims that went all the way to the
Pacific.
Well, all the way to certainly to wherever they ran out of the French, and so certainly to the Mississippi River by treaty.
Okay.
So the Mississippi River is now the western boundary at this time. But the way the original colonial charters were made is that they had lands reserved for their benefit further west. So you've probably heard of a university called Case Western Reserve.
Yes.
And you've heard of the Western Reserve of Ohio.
I haven't.
All right. Well, it's called Case Western Reserve because it's in the Western Reserve of Ohio, which is that northeastern strip along Lake Erie.
Oh.
And it was the western lands reserved for the colony of Connecticut.
You're kidding.
I kid you not. And so that's why it's the Western Reserve. And so all of these colonies had claims on territory further west. Now, some of it was contiguous, like Georgia, just keep going west. South Carolina's kind of squeezed, man, so they got a little strip. North Carolina goes west, and so
Connecticut had to reach over.
They had to reach over, get past New York, but, when Connecticut is founded, New York is a Dutch colony, and so there's, a lot of convoluted things, or becomes a Dutch colony. So it's there was territory that had to be kind of parsed out and rearranged and jurisdictions established. And then once that occurs, Congress will set up the rules on how to bring it in. Mm-hmm. Now, that's the original territory. What happens when there's a real estate deal like the Louisiana Purchase?
Okay. Adding a whole bunch of territory.
Adding a whole bunch of territory. Is that in the Constitution?
No, because it took place afterwards.
Took place after, it took place. Yeah, correct. So is there anything in the Constitution authorizing the purchase of foreign territory?
Congress shall have power to dispose of and make all needful rules and regulations respecting the territory or other property belonging to the United States. And nothing in this Constitution shall be so construed as to prejudice any claims of the United States or of a particular state.
So there's no real, what happens if Brazil comes up for sale? Can we buy it?
The Alaska Purchase.
Yeah. Louisiana Purchase. The annexation of Texas.
Was there
annexation of West Florida?
Was there people complaining about Jefferson buying Louisiana?
Oh, absolutely, and it fell along.
Were they saying it was constitutional or not?
It fell along political lines.
Oh, so it had nothing to do with
So Jefferson is a strict constructionist, but he sees this opportunity to kind of operate outside of the stated authority of the Constitution to make a real estate deal. And his opponents, who tended to be loose constructionists, going, you can't do that because the Constitution doesn't say you can. And so they completely changed their polarity over the issue of the Louisiana Purchase.
And this Jefferson Purchase goes back to something that we've learned again and again and again. Power is something to be grasped hat.
That's right. You got to go out and grab it and see if it sticks.
Yeah.
So the Republic of West Florida is another example. So what happened?
Pensacola? What are we talking about?
Well, actually, we're talking Pensacola to Baton Rouge. You know,
Oh.
the parishes east of the Mississippi River in that little sock we call Louisiana. Well, the toe of that sock east of the Mississippi are known as the Florida parishes today.
Okay.
So we're talking about Livingston Parish and, all those sorts of parishes over there, Washington Parish, places like Slidell.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That territory had been part of Spanish Florida.
Okay.
And the Spanish finally decided we're just going to divvy up Florida into Florida and West Florida. And West Florida went all the way to Pensacola. And East Florida was from the Redneck Riviera down south into the peninsula. Okay. And what happens is a bunch of Americans have moved into Baton Rouge.
Okay.
Now, the reason they're moving into Baton Rouge is because the British had captured Baton Rouge had taken Baton Rouge in Florida during the French and Indian War. And then during the course of the American Revolution, the Spanish had taken it back. And then Americans had aided the Spanish in throwing the British out of Baton Rouge, and then they just stuck around. Mm-hmm. So it's a little complicated. But there's a lot of Americans now all of a sudden living in Baton Rouge.
Okay.
And they decide one day, well, we just don't like being part of Spain anymore. And they organize an overthrow of the local authority and declare themselves the Lone Star Republic of West Florida.
The Lone Star Republic.
Their banner of rebellion is a single star on a blue field.
Okay.
American troops move in from Fort Adams, Mississippi Territory, to protect American interest in this newly seceded area, and then that territory gets annexed to the United States.
Okay. Had no idea.
Where's that?
It's not
in
here.
the Constitution. I know. It's like, so we've got the ability to add new states, which means this motivates us to add new states.
And I'm wondering if, Thomas Jefferson, you think about all the other territory we acquired.
Yeah.
McKinley during the Spanish-American
Yeah.
War, for example. They just said, well, we got the right to add new states, and you can't add states unless you already have the territory.
Yeah.
So therefore, we have the right under the Constitution to add new territory.
Yeah, because it's certainly implied. And then, of course, Texas is an absolutely bizarre case, because it's a republic that is annexed.
Right.
And a republic that's recognized by world powers.
Yeah. But at the same time, Texas also wanted to be annexed.
Oh, desperately. They never wanted to be a republic. I don't care what anybody will tell you. Texans in 1836 did not want to be an independent republic, and then they ran it for 9 years straight into the ground. They were terrible at it. But it's a proud episode in Texas history. But they couldn't wait to get in under the protection of the Constitution and federal authorities, but as a state.
Okay.
So, the Constitution says, we can make new states.
Yeah.
But the mechanism sometimes is a lot like making sausage. It's a little unseemly. There's some pigs and ears and snouts and, all ground together.
All right. I'll never eat again.
That's right.
Okay, so the United States currently has territory. Puerto Rico.
Correct.
Virgin Islands.
Yeah. Samoa.
The Mariana Islands.
Yeah.
Might be a couple others. We really don't have that much territory.
Correct.
Anymore. We never were, in the context of things, a great territorial power outside of what is in the continent of North America.
Pretty big empire.
Yeah.
When you think about starting with 13 original colonies. So all this is telling us then is this is a congressional issue.
Mm-hmm. You have the right, we think.
And the jurisdiction falls to Congress.
Yeah.
It's not an executive branch thing where they just say, Alakazam, we annex Ontario.
I would imagine the president has a say in these things.
Well, absolutely.
So he has to sign the legislation.
Sooner or later, but it originates. Congress has the jurisdiction. So think about then if they have the jurisdiction over all territories.
Okay.
Let's say they want to exclude slavery from a territory.
Okay.
Congress could do it.
Yeah.
If there was enough congressmen to pull it off.
Right.
Southerners are watching their position in Congress recede.
Yeah, as the more territories were established.
So they're getting more and more desperate as we get closer to 1860.
So was the war inevitable? And this is a totally different subject.
Yeah, a whole different conversation for a whole different show. But you can start to see the fault lines.
Right.
Absolutely. As in the Constitution, as it's applied to having a house divided.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
That's it. That's our line.
That's the line. We're going to come back with one more line in Article 4.
Next time.